You may have seen these billboards up around town. I'm not sure if they're up anymore, but they were up earlier in the year. Several places around town that proclaimed abortion is not health care. I'm generally trying to stay even-handed as much as I can, but I think I can say authoritatively that's not the case. Abortion is very much health care. And the people who deny it, I recommend that they Google that term right there, ectopic pregnancy. An ectopic pregnancy occurs when a fertilized egg implants itself not into the uterus where it's supposed to be, but rather into the fallopian tube. And when this happens, if the woman does not get an abortion or have a miscarriage, her health is at incredible risk, extreme risk. This is a situation where it is very frequent for women to die as a result of an untreated ectopic pregnancy. And the child is never viable. There is absolutely no chance at all that an ectopic child will ever be brought to term. So the fate of the fetus is foregone. It's dead no matter what. The only question is what we do about the woman. Access to abortion and the cost of abortion. Between 1996 and 2000, the number of abortion providers in the United States declined by 11%, and 34% of women aged 15 to 44 lived in a county that had no abortion provider in the year 2000. And the reason why is because these people right here have been very, very successful, largely, at intimidating and getting abortion clinics to shut down. Some of you might be familiar with the recent assassination of Dr. George Tiller in Wichita, Kansas. That's the sort of thing that does scare people and intimidates them, and it gets abortion clinics to shutter their doors. This brings up a separate moral topic, that of terrorism, but I'll not get into that. The cost of abortion in 2000 for pregnancies at the 10th week ranged between $150,000 and $4,000, so a pretty massive range there. The average cost was $372. Okay, now I want to steer away from sort of the broader statistics and look more at the facts of fetal development, to see what happens in the womb. Now, obviously, there's a lot of stuff that happens over the course of the 9-month pregnancy. I can't talk about everything, but I do want to mention at least a few things here. First off, I used that phrase earlier, that moment of conception. I need to clarify that because that's a misnomer. There is no such thing as the moment of conception. Conception is a process, not a moment. It's a process that takes about 24 hours. It's a highly sophisticated genetic dance between the genetic material of the father and the mother, but it's only after that 24-hour window that you have a sort of clear, genetically distinct entity. So yeah, we have this sort of picture, this image in our minds. The moment that happens, you have a human life. But really, as you can see right there, I chose this picture specifically because it's sort of half in and half out. Do we want to say that's a fertilized egg? Do we want to say that's a genetically unique human being? You can take snapshots all throughout this 24-hour period, and at no point is it at all clear in that process whether or not you have a unique entity that you want to distinguish from the mother. Gender is determined pretty much right away after that process is taken care of. Implementation occurs somewhere between 10 and 14 days after conception. Twinning can occur up to about 12 to 14 days after conception. Here we have a pair of monozygotic twins, twins coming from a single fertilized egg. This also creates problems for the idea that you have a unique individual at the moment of conception. Even after conception, you have at least the potential for two individuals rather than just one. Heartbeat begins about 5 to 6 weeks, which is usually about the absolute earliest that you can detect pregnancy, unless you happen to be very, very on top of the ball. The rudiments of the major organs and the limbs start developing around week 6. The fetus becomes visible to the naked eye, that is, would be visible if it weren't inside the woman, obviously, somewhere around week 7. Quickening occurs around week 19. Quickening is when the mother first feels the fetus move. And this actually has some historical significance to the abortion debate, because for the longest time, throughout most of the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, quickening was considered to be the cutoff point, because the thinking was that prior to quickening, the fetus had no soul. They thought quickening was the moment the soul entered the body. And so an abortion prior to that was perfectly acceptable. It was even acceptable within the Roman Catholic Church and the Protestant Church for quite some time. Now, scientifically, we realize quickening really has nothing at all to do with any sort of substantial change. It really is, the baby's moving long before that. Quickening has no particular medical or moral significance, it seems, nowadays. Neural development. This is where things, I think, get particularly interesting. Now, neuroscience is very, very young. Developmental neuroscience even younger. There's everything I'm about to say should be taken with a very large grain of salt because we don't know an awful lot about how the brain works, how the brain develops, precisely how things happen in there. But we can at least make some tentative conclusions based on what we do know. So the general consensus seems to be that prior to the 24th week, there's absolutely no evidence of either conscious awareness or capacity to feel pain. This is going to be a very important fact for something I'm going to come to in just a couple of slides. After the 24th week, these gradually develop. It's not like bing, light turns on and suddenly they're consciously aware. It's a very, very gradual development after the 24th week. So when we look at and contrast that piece of information about the advent of consciousness and capacity to feel pain, and cross-reference that with the information about abortion by gestational age, you get some I think, very illuminating figures. So again, these come from the CDC. This is from a 2002 study. As you see right here, 59.3% of abortions happened before the 8th week of development. Another 18 between the next several weeks and so forth, all the way up. So this doesn't even get us to where we need to be. So over 20 weeks, that still gives us a 4-week window before pain and consciousness have been developed. And that's only 1.4% of abortions in the United States in 2002. Now, just in case you don't trust the CDC, these are the figures right here from Operation Rescue's website. They're a very prominent pro-life group. And they actually have the figure here at slightly less. They have it 1% at 21 weeks over. And other than that, their numbers are relatively comparable to the CDC's numbers. So, again, the CDC doesn't have figures on after the 24th week. So the Gutermacher Institute did have some figures, but again, they're kind of dated because they're from 1997. The most recent numbers I could find. And their estimates in 97 were there was 1,032 abortions in the United States in 1997 after the 24th week. That amounts to about 0.08% of all abortions in the country. And nearly all, if not absolutely all, of these are done for medical reasons, either because of the fetus or because of the mother. I would like to say that they're all done, but that's a universal claim. It's hard to make such a claim. I don't know every single abortion, every single abortion doctor. But I can say with a fair degree of confidence that at the very least, nearly all, if not absolutely all, were done for medical reasons. Again, if you don't trust the Gutermacher Institute, you can also look at Fox News. Their website has an even lower figure. According to the Fox News website, only 100 abortions were performed at more than 24 weeks of gestation. That's about 0.01% of all abortions performed in the United States. So here's the important takeaway for this information. Nearly all, that's somewhere between 99.92 and 99.99 of U.S. abortions occur before the advent of pain or awareness.